Hey everybody, it's Brendon Burchard. Welcome to a special edition of Growth Day. I'm really excited to talk about this month's topic, which is how do you create remarkable and long-lasting friendships? And I'm talking about the kind of friendships that you love, the friendships that bring you alive, that bring you that connection, that help life feel more even meaningful, that help you progress and feel supported, help you be seen, help you feel a true connection with not just others, but with humanity, because the people around you are awesome. And when the people around you are awesome, you know you feel better about life. But we also went through this crazy last 18 months where so many people were isolated, where we had so much turmoil, so much conflict, so much in just uncertainty and fear in the world, where I really believe friendships really elevated, and you could see whether or not you had great friends throughout this pandemic or you didn't. You were able to see whether or not you got the support that you needed, whether or not you were able to maintain your sense of vibrancy in some of those times of aloneness, whether or not you had people who cheered you on when you decided to make a transition, start something new, or the kids left the house, or you got sick, or something was going on that was difficult in your life. We look to our friends. And I think that this is a very undervalued conversation in mental health. So much about the mental health conversation is appropriately about self-awareness, it's about mindfulness, it's about taking care of our stressors, and a lot of it is that solo work that we all have to do for self-mastery. But I can tell you that the great universities of the world, the psychology department is right near the sociology department because they go together. Like, we are social beings. And when you lose that social connection with the world, which usually starts through lack of disciplined habits with your friends, then suddenly life loses its color. And I think this is so important. You're going to hear me talk about friendship today in a way you probably haven't heard before, very much from what we would call a high-performance psychology perspective. And I think you're going to love this. So if you've been struggling with friendships in your lifetime, not either having enough friends or not having the quality of friends that you've always wanted, this is a serious conversation today. I can't imagine a time, at least in my life so far, where friendships were so incredibly important. I get to share some of the things that really have worked, not just in my life and my friendships, but in studying this work deeply over the years, in recognizing how many people are entrepreneurs, high achievers, people who are trying to make great impact in the world. You're here today, and sometimes that journey can feel very lonely, or when you get to the top, it can feel lonely, they say, and I'm like, I kind of believe what my friend Brian Tracy and mentor said to me one time. He said, if it's lonely at the top, you did it wrong. And I thought, woo, that's good. That's good, because maybe sometimes we value today progress. We value today getting things done. We value that top mountain of achievement. And then we look around and go, oh, nobody really knows me. I don't feel a connection to others. Yeah, I got the thing, the house, the car, the bank account, the accolades, the Instagram page, and all of a sudden though, something's missing. And friendship is one of the greatest vehicles to the real psychology of well-being that we talk about here at Growth Day. And I'm going to share with you a secret today, just a simple phrase. You're going to go, oh my gosh, that's why my friendships aren't going right. So you're going to love this session. I say that triangle, right, of well-being that we talk about Growth Day. Aliveness is one of the things we all want after we had everything else, right? Another thing we want is connection. We're not after casual friendships here today. We're at like, how do I create authentic, deep, trusting, vulnerable, fun, real relationships? Because how many of you have ever had friendships that turned out to be fake? You thought you had a good friendship and that thing turned out to be not so good or poisonous, or somebody they weren't loyal to you as a friend, or they lied to you, or something went wrong. You thought, how could that happen in that relationship? And I always tell, like, friendships are a science of relationship, right? It's about how you create relationship with others. And I'm going to give you, again, a phrase that will really help you with this today. And then if it's true that we want aliveness and connection, this triangle, another thing that we want is meaning. Well, meaning isn't achieved just by living your purpose each day in your own head. Meaning is achieved through a social relationship network. My sense of meaning is, do I feel connected to the world? And the world isn't an abstract thing. It's not like I feel connected to the oak tree. It's like, no, I mean, did you make your difference in the world? That's going to be served and answered through your social impact, your relationships with others. And I have to tell you, I've been coaching people for 20 years of my life now, and a lot of people have one friend. In the United States, unfortunately, the number of people with 3 good friends has declined over the decades. You're like, 3 good friends? Oh, we got to talk about that, because some people stumble into friendships or hope for friendships. Just like some people hope to have a loving relationship. Just like some people hope to have a good job. Just like some people hope that, they get healthier. And then there's strivers who take life a little bit by the reins and say, no, let me architect that, let me build that. And I'll give you my own examples today of where I sucked at friendships. And I had to learn, how do you do them? And how do you create them? And once you know how to create and craft them, life really opens up for you. And it becomes not just more alive and connected, but more meaningful. Like a sense of meaning happens when we have a tapestry of social relationships that are real and impactful. And then, of course, in the middle of that triangle, you always see me draw out growth. That your friends should be lifting you up, not pushing you down. Your friends should be inspiring you to get better. Your friends should have your back, but also be willing to challenge your face. You know what I'm saying? Like your friends are and should be one of your primary growth drivers in life. Most people choose ambitious goals to be their growth driver. Oh, I'm gonna do something that's hard, or I'm gonna try to achieve this amazing thing. I'm gonna try to become a millionaire or make this difference or build this company or have this type of family. And it's this external climb, this thing they're trying to achieve. And too many people forget, it's like, actually, one of the best drivers of growth isn't your job, isn't your goals, it's your friendship circle. And when your friendship circles make you a more alive, deeper, caring, thoughtful, authentic person in the world, I'm telling you what, guess what? At work, you're better. At home, you're better. Your art gets better. Your sense of life lifts. Let me share with you what I really believe to be the 2 central problems of friendship. Okay, the 2 central problems of friendship. The first one is a failure of each of our own. Like, I'm just taking this on myself as well. It's like we fail in life to realize most of our friendships were assigned, not aligned. Most of our friendships were assigned, not aligned. What I mean by that is many of our friendships happen because group assignment, right? Think about it. Some of your best friends, where'd you meet them? School? Your neighborhood? Some other affiliation, maybe at work? Maybe in a group that you joined? So it was like, oh, we showed up somewhere or we were assigned somewhere and there was that girl who sat next to me in class. We became friends. Or, oh, I worked with this person at work and we were coworkers. We became friends. And these are kind of like assigned friends. And I know that sounds really weird to say, so bear with me a little bit. I don't mean that the manager was like, you're gonna be friends here. What I mean is, because of your group, your affiliation, or where you were, you kind of met people there, and by default, by you being a good person or communicating or doing stuff with them, you kind of became friends. Versus, that's like an assigned friend. It's like, oh, because we were here, we became friends. Versus an aligned friend, which is, oh, I'm an adult now. What are the types of friends that I want to create that align with my passion, my dreams, my lifestyle, my values, my beliefs, the things that I want of life, and let me go get them, not let them fall into my lap. Which brings up the second designation. And this is hard to say to people, and if you're in a place where you feel lonely in your life, or you feel like you don't have great friendships, I promise this will be so helpful for you today to even know how your own brain thinks. And many of us, and I was this way probably all the way throughout high school even, I never, and this is the second problem of friendships, I never made the deliberate choice to have remarkable friendships. I kind of ended up with friends. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Who's like ended up with friends? If you kind of just ended up with like this person, it was kind of, my friend, one of my buddies he goes, I don't want no rando friends. And it was like random. Now, I love random. I love the universe. I love God. I love coincidence. Listen, I read the Celestine prophecy. People are glowing out there for me. I believe in that coincidence stuff. But I can also share with you, like, if you just allow randomness in your life all the time, you'll always feel a sense of mediocrity too. We have to stretch. We have to choose our life. And to choose our life, we have to be deliberate and go, what kind of life do I want? I would like you to learn to architect your ideal friendships. And can you get all of them, and will all your friendships be perfect? I'm not that guy. I'm not here to promise everything's going to be sweet and perfect and peaches in life. I am here to suggest, though, that if you haven't deliberately chosen the types of friendships that you want, that's a problem, especially if you're an adult, right? And that's the thing is, we're not encouraged to do that. Think about how much time people were feeding your ears with the idea you had to be really thoughtful about the career you choose. How many of you ever had more people tell you more times about be so thoughtful about the school you choose, the career you choose, but no one ever said as much, be very thoughtful about the friends and the friendships that you build. And that's why we have a lot of high-achieving people who are lonely their whole life. Well, think about your career. What are you going to be one day? Very rarely, what's the type of social network you're going to build around you? What's the type of friendships you're going to architect? What are you going to be proud of in terms of your friends in the future? What do you want your friends to achieve? What do you want your friends to experience in life? Not just what they give you, but what are you going to give out too? What kind of friendship do you want to create and experience? How do you want your friends to actually interact with one another? Have you ever thought about that? We spend so much time, if you're a parent and you have 2 kids, you're so worried about how they interact, right? I know people who've never even thought, how do I want my friends to interact? I mean, they might think, you know what, we shouldn't put them in a room at a party because they have this history, that background, but very few people are like, I'm going to actually teach my friends how to be friends with one another. Now, I know some of you might be like, this guy sounds like a control freak. I'm like, I am, but I'm a happy one. You know what I'm saying? I think this is such an important area to architect. Most friends have never talked about how to be friends. They just go, you want to go to lunch? They go to lunch. They talk about the weather, the waiter, the food, what's going on. They leave. And there's no architecting. There's no, I think of like social systems are things that can be shaped. You all think like at work, right? How much we talk about at work, building a culture. More books and more people have spent time on this conversation of building culture at work and never the culture of a friendship. Isn't that weird? I don't know where along the line we lost the conversation and the desire to choose to build awesome friendships and a culture of friendship. Meaning not just friends. Most people think of, I want a friend, right? When you're in high school, you just want a friend, right? You're just like, at least I was like, can I get one? You know, it's like you worry about having friendships when you grow up. And usually that means you think, and we're all trained this way, especially in Western cultures. We're taught to have a friend, and we think in a very individualistic mode. I and this person are in relationship, and then you have another friend. I and this person are in relationship. And maybe you go out and you try to get them together, and we have a party. But even at the party, it's individual nodes, me, that friend, and this friend. And I don't get trained as I'm getting older to think as a systems social architect. Oh, wow, look at all these nodes, if you will, these friends. If I like each of these people and I have a relationship with each of these people, why don't, in some way, I weave them together and create a tapestry of friendship where I'm actually connecting the dots and creating a culture of friendship? See, we don't think like that, do we? I was a very kind of solitary child. I was kind of in my own little world. I don't know about you all, but I was definitely, I would be like an introverted kind of child. I kind of kept to myself. I like to play with my toys kind of by myself. In elementary school, from what I can remember, I was kind of solo, Brendon. I didn't see social systems, right? I was in a class with kids and a teacher, and I had a relationship with the teacher, and I had a relationship with this person or that person or not, but I couldn't see the class. I couldn't say, oh, like this group is kind of like this. Instead, it was just like, she likes me or she doesn't. Teachers like that. I didn't see the system. Today, I'd like you to try to see the system a little bit. See the system of the friendships you've built in your life. See the system at play at work. See the system of your culture or your nonprofit or your company. When you can start seeing a bigger picture and get out of your head a little bit, now something happens. There's connection, there's community. See, everyone says, I want community. I'm like, well, you can't be an individualistic person in the community forever. You have to elevate to seeing the system. If you'll never be a community member or an effective one or a helpful one if you can't get out of your head. Well, I'm saying that not as judgment to you, that was me. So there's no judgment here. If you don't have friends, I'm telling you my story too. I was a solo person. I was in my own head. I couldn't see the class. I couldn't see the system. And so I felt apart. And because I felt apart and I couldn't see what was happening and I didn't know how to engage, I was lonely. And then when I finally made a connection with a friend, that friend became my life. Later on, that perpetuated into, some of you guys know my story of my first breakup with my high school sweetheart. I was destroyed because that was my one person, right? That was my one node in the world. And then when that relationship fell apart, I fell apart and became depressed and suicidal. And so how we relate with one or multiple people can completely shape our mental health. I know you already know that. And so I had to learn, wow, one, I don't want to ever be dependent on one friend. I want to build a support system. You ever heard that language before? No one says, go build a supporter. I want you to listen to the language of successful people. When successful people are speaking, they never tell you, go build a supporter. They say, go build what? A support system, a support network. Oh, I got to get out of single node thinking. A node is a one individual unit. And I got to get into the system. I got to stop thinking, does Sally at the class next, does she like me? And if she likes me, my whole life is good or bad or ruined. And I got to go, there's a class here. There's an energy, a vibe, a spirit. There's rules and norms. There's a culture here that is happening. How do I want to participate in this? And how do I want this culture to happen too in ways that I can affect? What do they want? And we all have to start thinking about that more in a society in which we're supposedly connected, but we've actually become individual nodes in the network.
Welcome to my world, people. So this is going to be fun. I probably have maybe one framework today, but I believe that something with relationship, because it's such an intimate tie to our humanity, that stories I can tell you will resonate better. And I hope that within the stories, you see yourself as one of the characters or the people or the individuals involved. And in that process, you can extract something and go, oh, okay, I get it. So I'm going to take you back in the time. So it's 2000. I was hanging with my buddy Vinny, because my buddy Vinny's a professional skater back, and I was in high school. It's, the cool kids hang out with the cool guys, and he's a professional skater. And then there was this one time I went to with my buddy Byron, who introduced me to Vinny. We went to this weird court to hang out. Now this is Antioch. This is back in my hometown. I'm like 16, 17, and I'm just going to tell you guys, I was not the most savory character. I wasn't even saved at this time. Wasn't doing crazy stuff. But I remember, like, we pulled up into this weird court, and my buddy Byron had this jug. You guys ever seen a gallon jug of Carlo Rossi wine? He had this gallon jug. He used to walk around downtown Antioch with it. Oh my gosh. And he was like 16. I don't even know how he got it. And anyways, we end up in this court, and my buddy Byron introduces me to this girl. And it's the only girl that's there. Her name's Christina. She goes to the same high school. I don't really know her, but like I just meet her and talk, and no big deal. Well, the ensuing months, we end up hanging out a lot. We end up, we're in the same friend group. We get to know each other. At one point, my buddy Christian was like dating her, and then he wasn't dating her, and then like still in the same friend group. And then I don't know, fast forward, at some point we're hanging out at my buddy Vinny's house, we talked about, and I probably had a couple sips of that Carlo Rossi wine, we'll call it. And so I'm sitting there. I remember I was on the couch, and this girl comes up. We start talking and chatting. It's Christine. And next thing you know, like we kissed a little bit on the couch. We'll leave it at that. That's literally all it went. We just kissed on the couch. We're little kids. Don't do dumb stuff. And fast forward, like a year later, I don't know how it happens, but we're dating. Like we're dating. This is like my girlfriend. And I, growing up in foster care, have this weird tie to like the female in my life, so much so that at the end of the day, like the woman that's closest to me is really close to me. Like it's an attachment to my heart. I think there's just some space, and it holds itself because my biological mom, she just was distant. So I've always desired to have that kind of female presence in my life. And when it's there, like I'm locked in. And so like this girl at 18 years old, 2 years after that night on the couch, we'll call it, I was sitting there, and I was in a car with her. Now, this is the thing that I realized. In high school, I wasn't the most academically sound person. In fact, my family, we didn't really do academics. I was one of 6. We were really poor. My mom and dad, they didn't graduate from the high school, I don't believe. My siblings, of all of us, I'm one of 6. I'm the only one who actually graduated from the high school, not continuation, not GED. And here's why. I had an opportunity to play college football. And I wasn't academically ready for it. But this girl I befriended, I was dating, was like a 4.1 GPA. So I'm that kid that her mom and dad are like, why are you hanging out with this athlete who gets bad grades in sports? She was like, he's a good kid, I promise. And I was a good kid. So we're sitting there, and like we would go every night back to her house, and she would help me do calculus. Like, or was it calculus? Stats. It might have been stats in high school or something. I had to figure out how to get my math stuff done, because I did not know, and I was like a year behind. But if I got it dialed in and I got a better grade, I had a chance at a scholarship to go play football. So every night we would go through homework, and she seriously would sit there and like walk me through this stuff. And eventually I got a better grade. I get an opportunity to go play college football, University of Oregon, probably solely because she sat down and taught me how to study, taught me how to learn, taught me how to get better grades. So I go to college, we do the long distance thing. It doesn't work for me. I'm not really enjoying the distance, but I'm locked into her so much so, like, I don't talk to women. I don't do anything. In fact, at 18 years old, when she came up to visit me for a game, I proposed to this girl at 18 years old. So fast forward 9 months, I'm doing long distance. We don't like it. She's like, you know what? I found out your college, Oregon, has the degree that I want. I'm at UC Davis. I hate it here. And so we end up progressing into this thing where it's like, maybe you come up here. Yes, Nancy, go Ducks. It's like, maybe you come up here and go to school. Her family's like, I don't know. Do you really need to go up there to go to school? She's like, it's a great school, #2 in the country for this. And so she makes a choice. Her family says, just don't get pregnant. Go up there, don't get pregnant, take care of school, be focused, good to go. I have a 16-year-old son. So about 6 months after she got up there, we got pregnant. Oh man, don't do this. Don't tell your kids to do this either. Not a good recommendation. So fast forward a couple of years, I go to the NFL. I'm in the NFL. She's back home taking care of our son, and she's a trooper. She graduates with a 4.2 GPA, summa cum laude, with her master's in special education. The chick's a beast. The actual quarter that she had our son, she still got a 4.0. Monstrous. And we're away from home. We're in college in Oregon. We're from California. So like, she's just, you get it. She's dope. So we're living this life, doing this thing. And I go to the NFL, and we're doing the distance thing in the NFL. Ups and downs is tough, because I'm gone like 7 of 10 months. Typically, I'm not really home that often, but we go back and forth. We communicate when we can. She's pretty much a single mom at home with me sending paychecks home. And it gets to the point where like I eventually NFL ends, because NFL stands for not for long, in case you didn't know. Now, here's where the story gets to the point of why we're talking about it today, my friends. And I'm going to give you the good goods that are not that good. So I'm sitting here in these moments, I come back to the NFL. I have a massive identity crisis. I don't know who I am. I've lost the sense of self as Anthony. And I'm sitting here in this moment. I'm going, who am I without football? And so I neglect the rest of my life. I've talked about the fruit of the labor, right? The fruit of my labor was football. And that one piece of fruit I was focused on, and I lost sight of the fact that I was a tree. And so what happened is I didn't give the nutrients to the tree. I didn't take care of the other branches on the tree. I didn't take care of the rest of the fruit. So when I'm focused on football getting lost, my business is failing. My marriage is failing. I'm not a present father. I'm getting out of shape. And I get to the point where I eventually have the situation where like I'm completely separate from my wife at this point. We were tight. I mean, so close. We knew everything, felt everything. And then it was like a stranger almost. And it got to the point where I'm in Hawaii, and we're on this vacation. And I end up finding on her phone that she'd been texting somebody else. And the somebody else was another guy. And come to find out that my wife, the one I'd known since 16 years old, is having an affair. And I'm not going to go emotionally back there with you, but just know it hurts. Because if you've ever experienced that, it's painful. It's a different depth of pain. And it's also, I don't know if it's different for me because like, that's my world. Like this was my family. This is my wife. This is, and we also had twins. So at this time we had 2 more kids. We had 3 kids, and my world is now coming tumbling down. And I get to this point where we're going to tell you the truth, man. Got to the point where I wasn't a present father. I wasn't playing football. My marriage was on the outs. My family was falling apart, and being a foster kid, not having a family, like when I had it, being ripped away was probably the depth of pain that I can't put into words. And I remember feeling like I don't want to be here. Like if this is going to be life after the game, it's what I got to experience. Like, I'm cool off this. I don't want this to be my work. I don't want to be here. And now thankfully I didn't do anything to take my life, but like that was a very clear and present thought for a moment. So for what I call the next like 6 years, I had what was called the fog. The fog is that time when you get up and you have no idea what to do that day. This fog lasted from 2012 until 2016. It was a tough one. Because we had the whole situation of like in 2010, the divorce was finalized in 2012. So I was like separate from like 2011, like 2016. And here's what took place in 2016. And I'm going to tell you this as the truth, the aspects of Anthony, you got to know him. Because if you get to know me, you got to realize like I'm not proud of these moments, but these are moments that give you a sense of my humanity. So like when you are with somebody for so long, you want to be with somebody. And so I found myself for the first time in my life having multiple partners. Like I'd have women I would talk to, and I was always respectful and kind of like, hey, I'm not trying to be in a relationship. But to be honest, like I would give of myself and it would drain me and I had nothing and I felt empty and I felt shameful. Like there was a day where I woke up on January 1st, 2016, and I was laying next to a strange woman from Russia of all places who had come because I went out and gave a speech there. And I went into the bathroom and I looked myself in the mirror and I had this wave of like hate, shame for the man looking back at me. Like, I don't know if you've ever been here, but the relationship we have like with ourselves is one that's difficult and it's hard if you don't like being alone with yourself. I had this reality that I am the common denominator in all of my problems. And in fact, the common denominator in all my relationships. Now, the relationships that I'm going to talk about, there's going to be different ones. There's one with, I'm telling you, my intimate relationship with my wife. There's the relationship with as a parent. I wasn't a present parent. I would find ways to miss, baseball and soccer and football games because, well, I'm busy or I'm traveling somewhere. I got this going on, or I book clients. I would book clients because, to be honest, I didn't want to have to go to the game and feel the shame of me knowing I hadn't gone to the previous game, or have to possibly find her with the next boyfriend that she's with and have to see some man holding my daughter's hand walking down the game, like these little things that happen. And so I would find myself not being a present father. My relationship with my clients was interesting because my focus wasn't on how to be a great trainer. It was like, how do I just, I don't know, find the next girl to hang out with? You know what I mean? Like that's the energy is in different places. And so because I wasn't centered with the relationship of Anthony, none of the relationships navigate themselves well. They all came tumbling down, we'll call it. And I woke up in this January time frame, and I finally had this realization of, dude, you got to do something to figure yourself out. And I did something that I think everybody at some point in time, if you've been in those funky places, you need to do. And it led to me having some positive pieces. But here's the first thing I did. I asked myself all the questions I did not want answers to. For example, Anthony, why aren't you a good father? Anthony, what was your role in that marriage falling apart? Anthony, how come you're not showing up in the business? All these things. Anthony, why are you out of shape, man? Why? I used to have a gym, and I would cover my belly with the sweatshirts with the logo of the gym, so I would have to show it. It was baggy clothes. I could hide the belly. I worked and trained in a gym all day, yet I did not look like it. You know what I mean? And it was this thing where I had this interesting internal conversation always running, and I never wanted to deal with the conversation. So I went internal. I finally asked these questions, and it provided answers I did not want to hear.
One of the things that I was talking to my team about when I started thinking about relationships is, as we are transitioning kind of into this new world and into this kind of new way of living, I don't know about you, and I'd be curious if you comment or raise your hand, or I know you're watching in many different places, but are you feeling any anxiety about kind of getting back out into the world and kind of exploring relationships back on a face-to-face basis? Because over the past year, a lot of our relationships have gone digital. And I was doing a little bit of research because there was this common thread on my team, which is a team of women. And we were saying that a lot of times we feel like we're lacking a level of closeness in relationships. Like we don't have a lot of close friends. But actually, when we did research, people generally have 3 to 5 close and personal relationships. That's it. And I think that a lot of times in our lives, we kind of tell ourselves these lies of like, I don't have a lot of friends, or people don't love me, or I don't have a lot of close people in my life. But when I saw that 3 to 5 number, I was like, wait, this is what reality is. Relationships take time and energy and work. And based on what stage of life you're in, that can look totally different. And so thinking about, on average, people having 3 to 5 close and personal relationships, I think that gives us permission to go really deep with our relationships and have them be super quality without worrying about quantity. So I was also curious about how the pandemic affected relationships, what people were reporting. And so what was super interesting is about half, so 46% of people that responded to the survey reported that the pandemic didn't really change their relationship. So about half of the people. Now, of the other half, 27% stated that it improved their relationship, and 27% reported that the pandemic made their relationship worse. So it's super interesting to me because half of the people remained status quo when it comes to relationships, whether that's friendships or love relationships. And then of the other half, it was 50-50 in terms of if it helped their relationship or if it hurt their relationship. And so I just think we're coming at a really interesting place when we're talking about relationships, because everyone's in a different situation. And that's why I love this month on Growth Day, because there are so many different ways to look at relationships: your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, your friends, your relationship with money. But knowing also too, kind of taking an assessment of where you're at after this last year and just being really honest, because we're going to get into something I'm really excited about, which is relationship archetypes. And if you kind of come at it from a place of knowing where you're at in a relationship, it'll help. So one of the last things that they found over the last year, so Wolfgang Krieger, he's a Berlin-based psychologist, notes that during the pandemic, people were reducing social interactions and focusing on fewer, closer relationships. So if we get back to that idea of 3 to 5 relationships, close and personal, I think one of the beautiful things of this past year is that it almost challenged us to kind of let go of some of those relationships on the fringe, maybe that aren't serving or that are draining us, and really focus on deepening the relationships that are really personal and important to us. And so I think it's kind of a cool signifier that we were almost granted that permission through the last year. So Speaking of last year, my team and I, we hired an emotional intelligence expert, and it was honestly so fascinating. Her name is Tico Nejan, and she changed my life and she changed my team's life. And in our analysis of emotional intelligence, we had to do these personal assessments. If you've ever done like the Enneagram or the Myers-Briggs, it's very similar to that, where you're kind of rating yourself. And one of the things that Tico called me out on throughout our relationship was that she said, Jenna, I see that you repeat a lot of the same behaviors in your relationships. She said, I sense these like patterns that you have. A lot of times I love to be the person that's the giver. And I'm not saying that as like a toot my own horn, like I love to give, but I love to show up in a relationship where I know I can add value, where I know I can help somebody. And when she called me out on that, she was like, my challenge for you is to like ask for help and not promise anything in return. I'm so bad at that. Like, I hate inconveniencing other people. I hate asking for anything. And she was like, you need to start flexing that muscle, getting better at that. And so Tico started challenging me to like work on relationships that I wasn't always the one giving or always the one making sure that someone was taken care of. And it honestly was a huge challenge for me. But what's so interesting is if you've never looked at relationship patterns, these patterns can be both good and bad. It's very similar to knowing your personality type, because when you can start to figure out what type of person you are or how you most commonly show up in relationships, it allows you to just bring this level of awareness to, is this healthy behavior or unhealthy behavior? And our relationships patterns dictate three basic things. So when we nail down what our patterns are, here's the things that they usually dictate. They dictate who we choose. So who are we choosing to be in relationship with? Again, this can be a love relationship, a friendship, whatever that looks like. So the kind of people that we're choosing, the behaviors we exhibit in relationships or how we show up or act, and what we will allow in terms of how someone else treats us. Okay, so who we pick, the behaviors we exhibit, and what we allow in how we are treated. And so this group, the Science of People, they nailed down 5 main archetypes of relationships. So listen closely. I'm going to walk through the 5 main types. So the first type of person that generally shows up in a relationship is the caregiver. So the caregiver is when you're always trying to take care of or fix someone. You might seek out a relationship with someone who you believe needs to be fixed, even if they don't agree or they don't acknowledge that. So the first type is the caregiver. The second type is the alpha. So you want to be the dominant force, the one who makes the decisions, the person in charge. You kind of create the rules of the relationship. The third type is the parent. And I kind of giggled at this one because you take on a more maternal or paternal role. And it said, like, if you're constantly nagging your spouse to empty the dishwasher or pay the bills on time or put their shoes away. And I was like, oh gosh, is that me? But it's where you're parenting the other person. And so the third one is the parent. The fourth one is the codependent. So you lose your individuality to become this unit. You become kind of one with the other person, and you each kind of give up your individual identities to kind of create a new one together. That's the codependent. And then the last one is the push-pull. So this is the more volatile approach to relationships. It's the type of relationship where you commonly make up and break up. There's a lot of drama. Highs are high, the lows are low. So again, the 5 are caregiver, alpha, parent, codependent, and the push-pull. And I think it's super interesting because you can take on traits of different ones with different relationships, but what they found is that generally we show up as one main type, and that our relationships, who we choose, how we act, and the behaviors that we accept are generally based off of that archetype. And I thought that was so interesting. If you know which one you are, comment so that I can see. I'm just super curious. So when Tico, our emotional intelligence expert, called me out, I recognized I'm generally the caregiver, the person who loves to help and fix and come in and make things better. But I realized that like I need to kind of back off of that a little bit and also ask for care to be delivered back without strings attached. That's what a relationship is, right? It's not one-sided. And so awareness around the role is just something that can really heighten how you show up. And it can also kind of give you pause when you're in certain scenarios where you're prone to be the alpha or to parent or to create that push and pull, that drama, so that you can kind of take a step back and really enrich your relationships.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember, you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.